Meanwhile, officials in Gauteng say over 138 boys in that province have been abducted or kidnapped by illegal initiation schools during the current initiation season. 2 of the boys died while being held at these schools. 4 people have now been arrested. It's been a huge problem in the Eastern Cape as well in recent times. Professor David Mosoma is the chair of the Commission for the Promotion and Protection of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities. Professor Mosoma, a good afternoon to you. This problem has been getting bigger and bigger over the years. Illegal initiation schools, now kidnappings. What kind of action do you think we need to take as a society to deal with this?
In fact, this trend, especially in Gauteng, we are beginning to see it for the first time. It has never taken this proportion. Because this is precipitated, in my view, it's precipitated by people who are using initiation school as a way of making money. It is a crime syndicate of people who really use this because the Initiation Act, Cultural Initiation Act, provides for the initiation schools which have to be protected, in which the safety of young men must really be secured. But these ones, they go the other way. They abduct young men and force them to go to initiation school so that parents can pay them in return. So the only fact why this is happening, we can attribute to the really commercialization of the practice, nothing else.
The police investigate, but I understand sometimes the parents don't want to press charges. And the boys themselves, they can be quite young, they're probably very, very scared. Is that a problem? I mean, is there any other way to deal with this if the parents won't lay charges? And they don't lay charges because they live in the communities with the people who do this.
In fact, the fear for pressing charges is reprisals, that these criminal syndicates are likely to really retaliate for pressing charges. But once there is a sense in which law and order is retained, and the parents know that they can be protected, I think this particular act could be prevented because people must now realize that their children's lives are at stake. And the only way is to really depend on the law enforcement agency, that the law must stick. And those who are found to be on the bad side of the law must really get harsh punishment. And if that happens, I think that will serve as a deterrent. Unless a deterrent is there, these people will find it easy. Each year there's initiation schools, and they'll find an opportunity to take advantage of this.
Initiation is a traditional practice. It has a very, very long history. As you say, if criminality is taking over, if money is sort of taking over, it seems almost that the practice may need to be reclaimed, perhaps. Do traditional leaders have a role to play here as well?
I think that has been made in the Cultural Initiation Act, that this is a culture which must be protected. It's a culture which is very noble, and it has particular purposes behind it, socializing young men to come back to become more productive members of society and to protect their families and to be responsible men in their own communities. So the culture, as it were, it's geared towards building communities. But the downside is that you have got criminal activities who attach money to this and who use this as a way of blackmailing families and picking up their children without the consent of their families and take them to initiation schools, because that's the only way they can extort money from those families.
The police, I mean, we always say that, and you're correct to say, of course, Professor, that, you know, there must be action, there must be accountability, people must go to court. But so often these things fall down in the police investigation stage, and the police don't have the resources they need either. But do we need just more, maybe assertiveness, more action from the police as well? They need to play a bigger role.
I think it's a double sword edge. It's a multiple action type of. Communities must also mobilize themselves around the protection of young men, especially this type of season. Police must also try to double their efforts in trying not only to identify where the initiation school is, but be there on time to address to arrest the principal person responsible for the initiation schools. And some example to be said about the time they serve for doing this, because you need deterrence. People must be afraid that if I do this, the consequences are very harsh. But unless that happens, people will just take it, it's a way of life. It's a lawlessness, law of the jungle. So we need to prevent the law of the jungle and make sure that there's a humanized environment in which when processes have been set, people must follow those processes. The Customary Initiation Act provides for that, for the traditional leaders, for the caregivers, for the surgeons, all of those to comply in making sure that the security of the lives of the young men is protected and they come back alive as they went to the initiation schools.
Professor, thank you very much indeed. Professor David Mosoma is chair of the CRL Commission. Such an important story developing.